What's up, guys? Dave here for Gaming in Real Life. Today it's not going to be a vlog, it's going to be something a little bit different as I am moving through my life, as the time is changing, the seasons are changing, and I am changing. I've decided, at least for the winter, to not do too much that vlog life of a day-to-day storytelling, but rather keep trying to get some podcast and some video out for you guys. And the way that I want to do it is basically talk about what's interesting to me. So whether it is an idea that I find interesting that I'd like to share with you guys, I'm just going to put on the camera, put on my microphone, and share it with you. And for today's first video in that regard, I really want to talk about an idea and a concept that was thought of by Carl Jung, which is one of the best psychoanalysts of all time, the prodigy of Sigmund Freud. And I'm gonna show you guys so before we start and before I go off and I try to tell you how this relates to my life and how I see it personally, I really want to show you guys a clip by an amazing person called Jordan Peterson, who talks about these ideas of Carl Jung. So let's roll the clip.
Like, I've read a lot of critics of Jung, and I've always got a kick out of them because the things they accuse Jung of are so trivial compared to the things that Jung actually did that it's like accusing a murderer of jaywalking. Like, because Jung was unbelievably radical. Like, here's one of his ideas. He thought that it was necessary. He believed that psychotherapy could be replaced by a supreme moral effort. And so the moral effort would be something like aiming at the good and then trying to integrate yourself around that. And that the good at which you aimed would be something approximating what you would be like if you manifested your full potential. And that you'd have a glimmering of what that full potential was. So that would be the potential future you. And he thought of people as four-dimensional entities, essentially, that were stretched across time. And that you, as a totality across time, including your potential, manifested yourself also in the here and now. And that part of what your potential manifested itself was something like the voice of conscience or intuition. It's an amazing idea. It's an amazing idea, right? Because it's like what you could be in the future beckons to you in the present and helps you determine the difference between good and evil. It's a mind-boggling idea. And then he went further than that. And this is also a remarkable idea. He was interested in the symbolic representation of Christ. And I mean, psychologically speaking. And he thought of Christ as the representation of the ideal potential human. It's something like that. So it was a symbolic, at minimum, that's what Christ was, is a symbolic representation of the ideal potential of a human being. And so for Jung, there was no psychological difference between who you could be in the future, beckoning to you in the present, and orienting yourself in relationship to Christ. Psychologically, those were the same thing. And then, so that's a pretty mind-boggling idea. Like, seriously, that's a mind-boggling idea. Especially when you add the psychological idea that one of the things that characterizes your ideal future self is the ability to make sacrifices, right? And the deeper the sacrifice, the better. And then also to recover from the sacrifice, right? So that's the death and rebirth. So the part of you that's most essential to your full flowering as a being is your ability to let things go and then spring back from that. So to die in some sense and to be reborn in the service of a higher good. And then, then the next part of that is that the direction of the world depends on you doing that. So not only your own life, but your family's life. And because we're networked so intently together, the whole panoply of humankind and maybe the structure of the cosmos. And, you might think, well, no, but, it's not so simple. It's not so simple. First of all, one person can wreak an awful lot of havoc. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And as we get more technologically powerful, that becomes even more relevant and important and crucial. One of the things that Jung said was that we had to wake up because we are too technologically powerful to be as morally asleep as we are. And that seems to me just to be self-evident. Yeah, for sure, that's true. We're half asleep with nuclear bombs. It's not a good idea. It's seriously not a good idea. And so, well, and then you might ask yourself too, well, like, what is the ultimate potential of a fully developed human being? And, well, we certainly know that you have admiration for people who are more developed rather than less developed. That just happens automatic. Or resentment, but that's okay. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. But it's not like you can't identify them. You can identify them, and they're put forward to you in drama and fiction and all of that constantly. So that's another form of moral intuition. You can discern the wheat from the chaff, let's say. And so the other thing that I was thinking about that's worth considering.
Alright guys, so we're back, and I want to become the Christ, the next Jesus Christ. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But as Jordan Peterson says, he thought Jung saw Christ as the ultimate representation of the ultimate being, and that your conscience and the future beckons to you in the present to do what is right in order to reach that full potential and to become good. And also that the other options to psychoanalysis is a ultimate moral effort, right? So these are really interesting ideas to me, and it really connects to me in a weird way. First of all, I think I am all kinds of fucked up. I have this dark side of me, the devil and the angels on my shoulders that speak to me. And the angel will try to lead me towards my goal, towards what I want to achieve out of life, towards the strongest version of myself, while the devil will lead me towards nihilism, towards bitterness, towards resentment, towards self-destructive behaviors and thoughts. And I think everybody has those two little angels and demons. Some of them recognize this in themselves and can integrate the influences and the desires of their demon into their life in order to make themselves a unity, make themselves one, and become the strongest version of themselves and be on the path to a successful and happy life. But as Jordan Peterson or Carl Jung says, one person can wreak a lot of havoc in the world, especially with our technological advance. It is very dangerous to have people with their finger on the nuclear buttons, and while they are morally completely asleep, right? And we might just be a generation away from complete self-destruction. So who knows where the world is going? Who knows if we need to go to Mars in order to save humanity from its own self-destructive impulses. But what I do know is that one person, in a way, can change the world and can have an amazing positive impact on the world. And that positive impact is proportional to the sacrifices that you are willing to make in order to become the strongest version of yourself. And the way that I see sacrifices, and the way that I think about it, is that anything that you do in a day, all your habits, every single thing, whether you are smiling at other people, whether you are asking people how it's going, whether you are arguing with your child, with your mother, with your parents, with whoever, these are all moments of your life. And even though you might have a valid reason in your mind, or you might be addicted, or you might be inclined to do all of the things you do every day because we are creatures of habits, those habits are the one that needs to be sacrificed in order to become a strongest version of yourself. So right now, for example, I'm changing a little bit up in my vlog, going around with a camera in winter while it's raining, it's cold, the sun goes down early, and this place is not necessarily the best of ideas. So I'm trying to change the format and readapt myself to go with the flow of life. Not to say that this readaptation and these changes do not come with growing pain, because you have to be strong enough to withstand the sacrifices and then rebuild yourself at a higher level in order to reach your potential in being, right? So there is the future that beckons to you and all your goals and everything that you want to achieve out of life. And right now, you are wherever you are right now, which sounds like a tautology, but it is true. And at this place, there is a small but clear voice in your head, or in a feeling, in your gut, in your intuition, that can be akin to the Christ in you, right? To the greatest ideal that you can conceive of. And it is beckoning you to move forward with courage, with faith, and trusting that the world is a benevolent place. Expecting the best in the world, expecting the best in yourself, while not being naive to the twist of fortune, to your own limitations, and being humble as having your eyes open and paying attention to the things you can learn in that process. And by paying attention and learning things in that process, you can sacrifice that new version of yourself that now has become the old one, and then you can move forward into newer and newer version of yourself in order to kind of mold yourself into something like a diamond, like something very solid. So for example, you have this idea that you really want to be amazing with women, and then you go and you hit the world face first, with courage, with heart, with gusto, straight head on towards what you want, right? Which is woman. And you're not naive enough to think that you cannot be rejected, that you cannot fail, that you cannot be hurt, but you have the courage to still move in that direction. And as the time goes, you learn things, and by learning these things, you can sacrifice some of the behavior that you've done at the beginning that clearly don't work, in order to raise your game to another level with behaviors that do work. And that is the kind of what gaming in real life is based upon. I've become really good at games such as World of Warcraft, such as League of Legends, such as Diablo, for example. And the way that you become good at those games is, first of all, you got to play the games. And then secondly, you have to sacrifice some of your habits, some of your bad tendencies, in order to reach a higher level. So for example, if you would play League of Legends, since I know most gamers can relate to that example, if you are always aggressive at level 2... Okay, so that's a bit too specific. Okay, so for example, if you're playing League of Legends, but you're always playing passively in the mid game, and you're not really making any plays, well, you might have to sacrifice this comfort zone of being passive and not making any plays, and try to up your game into a more thoughtful, methodical approach to seizing advantages and opportunity and pouncing on them when they present themselves, right? And through a lot of trials and errors, through a lot of learning experiences and reference experiences of playing games, you can become a great gamer. But same thing can be applied in real life, right? You want to try to make money, well, go apply to many jobs, try different things, and through those experiences, you will learn how your own self respond to different type of people, different type of environment, different type of jobs. And through these learning experiences, you can see where you fit, and where you fit solidly into an organization. So it's not only you who has to be solid, but it's the organization, it's your skill set, it's your tendencies, it's your talent, it's yourself, right? So by trying this multitude of different things, and by always killing an old version of yourself in order to make room for a newer, more developed version of yourself, you can mold yourself into your destiny, into your future, into your goals. So it's about reverse engineering your finish line, seeing where you want to end up, and then mapping out your life, your behavior, your day-to-day, everything you do, and you map it out to where you want to get, and then you get back to the present and act according to your conscience, according to the greatest good that you can conceptualize. And in order to do that, you have to sacrifice whatever habits you have right now and whatever you feel like doing right now, right here, right this second. So conceptualize an ideal self, come back in the present, and act in accordance to it. Sounds pretty easy, right? But it's not easy at all. It is a bitch, and it is a battle. And if you are battling, if you are going through some shit, and if you feel like you can't prevail, like I have felt many times, and like I feel right now even, just remember that there's not really any other options. It is a life of bitterness, sadness, regrets, a life of just a life of pain, of destruction, of resentment. That's the word, resentment. Or it is a life of struggles, sacrifices, happiness, contentment, self-esteem, peak experiences, dreams, beauty. So are you going to choose the ugly life, or are you going to choose the beautiful life? And this choice can be done only one place. It's in this moment. So right now I'm going to go shower because I look like a mess, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little podcast of gaming in real life. And I'll see you next time where I'll discuss another idea that crosses my mind. Alright, peace.